Games are fun to play, if you know how.
I don't understand. What the hell's going on? Thanks for explaining nothing.
However, tutorials are kind of hated in the gaming community. They pretty clearly break the tension and pacing of a game. For example, when I played Blasphemous, the whole game was in this archaic, poetic style, old-fashioned and gravitas, but the tutorials were written simply. I played the game in Spanish, by the way. It was way easier to understand the tutorials than the story. Just like how dialogue feels different from narration, tutorials feel different from the rest of the game's writing. I'm not going to explain to you why a tutorial should exist. Go watch Rasputin's Gaming for a Non-Gamer series for that. I think there's a level of artistry that goes unappreciated in creating tutorials, either through gameplay or through writing. I define a tutorial as a part of the game that tries to tell you what to do or how to do it. This includes quest outlines that tell you to go kill 20 orcs or whatever. To help categorize tutorials, I've made this matrix. On the x-axis is explicit and integrated. Blasphemous has an explicit tutorial, the most obvious kind of tutorial. It's where a text box or some graphic pops up to tell you what button to press. Whether through pop-ups or character or extra options in the menu, the game is telling you how to play the game, often by dropping everything to explain something. This is partly why people get annoyed with tutorials, because they interrupt the flow of the game. Imagine if a video just stopped and, "Hello and welcome to today's YouTube tutorial. Did you know you can use the L and J keys to move forward or backwards 10 seconds respectively? You can also use the K keys to pause. Now, back to the video." It's kind of amazing how that is just integral to gaming, and we don't even realize how strange and sometimes annoying that shift in tone really is. But not all games have explicit tutorials, and plenty of games are praised for teaching the game through gameplay. There is something remarkable about a game you can just pick up, no explanation needed. When a game can show you how to play the game using gameplay, that's called an integrated tutorial. The majority of learning the basics has to do with splashing around in the kiddie pool until you get your floaty, and dive into the deep end. Sometimes these kinds of tutorials can leave out info or take a long time compared to the compactness of explicit ones. Another important distinction in tutorials and their styles is whether or not they are canonical. Canonical meaning actually happened. The Great Plateau is a real place in the world of Breath of the Wild. It's also where Link wakes up and the story starts. I would consider this an integrated canonical tutorial. A pop-up or a menu is of course non-canonical and explicit, but if the player character is learning something in-universe, even through pop-ups, then that's canon, even if they break the fourth wall by saying press A to jump or whatever. Their character is actually learning how to do something, and so is the player, therefore it's canon. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance has a tutorial, but it's optional. So even though it's through gameplay, Raiden should already know how to run and fight at the start of the game, so I call this integrated, but non-canonical. I want to point out that I don't think any of these styles of tutorial is better or worse than another. Many games incorporate elements from multiple squares, and it's not cut and dry. An explicit non-canon tutorial, like the ones in Blasphemous, can be obnoxious, but it is the fastest way to get into the game. The intro of Breath of the Wild, an integrated canonical tutorial, is a good setup and lets you figure out the controls, but it's very long and can get tiresome, especially on repeat playthroughs. These stylistic choices help define the game better. One, Blasphemous, with a focus on gameplay and tighter controls, and the other on immersion in the world. Without their tutorials, or by changing them, these games would be different, and I'd say worse. What tutorial a game chooses to use and how it presents its controls to the player not only affects the game parts of the game, but the game feel itself, defining expectations and setting a precedent. The Binding of Isaac has a tutorial for hieroglyphs, and that's not even all of the controls. The game doesn't explain pills, cards, trinkets, rooms, bosses, hearts, pickups, shots, secret room floors, devil deals, key pieces, spoiler rated negative stats, or the 719 items! But because McMillen is such a nice and awesome guy, he added these little subtitles to help explain what each item does. Wow! Thank you, McMillan. The Binding of Isaac intentionally holds information from the player because exploring and discovering parts of the game is part of the fun. There's a mod that shows you all the info so you can understand what every item does, but I feel like that can ruin the fun. Discovering that Bouncing Tears works with Brimstone is way more fun than reading it on a text overlay. No, not all games need tutorials, but plenty of games are far more complicated than move and shoot games, or jump and shoot. Plenty of games are about testing and maximizing your game knowledge. For instance, Monster Hunter has a bunch of info on monsters, their stats and weaknesses to help you take them out. The point is that you, the hunter, study their weaknesses and make a plan around them to more effectively hunt. There is no way to know this without the game telling you, or by checking the wiki. Nothing will take you out of a game faster than looking at a wiki. Literally and, emotionally. That is why the info in Monster Hunter is shown as in-universe hunting notes. It really makes you feel like a monster hunter, studying, planning, and finally executing your hunt. Without this info, you can't play with the game's systems, but if they were more explicit, it'd be annoying. If you don't consider the hunting notes as a tutorial, just think about other games that are more explicit with their elemental weaknesses. These games present basically the same information in more explicit ways. The games are still telling or suggesting how to play the game by explaining its mechanics. Because Monster Hunter made this info optional and canonical doesn't change the fact that it's practically the same as Pokemon telling you about type advantage. One feels more like hand-holding while the other helps with a feeling of verisimilitude. Both teach the player how to play. The artistry in making a tutorial is making it both serve its purpose, tell the player what to do, and stay engaging. Too long and the player disengages.
Tutorial. Okay, so you earn WP and SP. WP, that stands for weapon points. That levels up your skill, and then you gotta go into the affinity chart, plug in the right core chip into your blade. I think we're done with the tutorials now. 16 hours into the game.
Time to take you down.
Still more.
Too explicit and it ruins the pacing and immersion, but without an explanation, the players don't know how to play the game. This balancing act is what makes tutorials unique in their writing. It's why you can feel the difference when there is one, even an integrated one. Clever games use this uniqueness to heighten the game and its story. In The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, you learn some cool sword moves from the hero's spirit. These serve as a way to show off some more advanced controls and techniques. You even go to some tutorial void, a common trope in tutorials. This could be boring, especially on repeat playthroughs, but this character has some serious impacts on the lore. After Link was sent back to his childhood in the Ocarina of Time, he was filled with great regret, unable to pass on lessons of his life to those who came after him. And now he's here, as a shadow, ready to pass on his skills to save this world as the hero's spirit. Oh shit, that's me from the last game. This recontextualizes not only the tutorial, but its story and larger timeline as a whole, by giving a backstory and letting him be both a character and a tutorial. Both are elevated. That's cool, and I don't care what anyone says. There is one game, however, that I think turns a tutorial into a character better than any other game I've ever played. In Undertale, the tutorial is an important character to the story, and is literally named Toriel. She is the one who guides you through the ruins, but you don't really need her. She tells the player to wait for her during a fight, something that only happens once because, well, you leave. She doesn't want you to fight, so she doesn't tell you how, hitting the center. Toriel is an unreliable tutorial. Flowey teaches you about the dodging mechanic, but tricks you into getting hit. This serves two purposes: to show the player how to play the game, and to demonstrate the characters. Toriel is overprotective and Flowey is a bastard. By manipulating the tutorial, we get a much better understanding of the characters. Undertale is genius because it makes the tutorial more engaging by using it to build its characters and not just explain the game. This character building could only happen in a video game because you literally learn from them, and the drama from the characters is heightened by being a tutorial, because instead of just reading it, in games you can feel it. So next time you play a game, maybe give a little more appreciation to something that's often overlooked or hated upon, as it's completely unique to gaming. Yet in truth, the fun part about video games is you can play it any way you want. So a game can't really tell you what to do.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left